At 11:47 p.m. in Sterling Tech Tower's garage, Samuel Johnson pushed his cleaning cart past Richard Sterling's black Tesla Model S. The interior light glowed faintly, wrong for a parked car. Samuel's trained eyes caught movement in the rear seat. The elevator chimed. Sterling emerged, walking confidently toward his vehicle. "Don't get in that car!" Samuel shouted. Sterling stopped, hand on the door handle, face twisted with irritation. "What did you just say to me?" But as Sterling looked through the rear window, his expression changed completely. A red laser dot danced on his chest. Inside his car, the silhouette of a gunman sat waiting, a weapon aimed at the driver's seat. Sterling froze, hand trembling on the handle. The billionaire CEO who commanded billions stood paralyzed, staring at his own death. The garage fell silent except for the faint hum of the laser sight. Who was the assassin, and how did a janitor see what Sterling's security missed? 3 hours earlier, Samuel Johnson had arrived for his final shift at Sterling Tech Tower. At 45, his broad shoulders carried the weight of invisible burdens, a man society had taught to stay unseen. His dark janitor's uniform hung loose on his 6'2" frame, deliberately oversized to avoid drawing attention. The unusual blue-green eyes that marked his mixed heritage stayed focused downward as he badged through security. Sterling Tech Tower pierced the Manhattan skyline like a glass and steel monument to technological supremacy. 60 floors of innovation, with Richard Sterling's penthouse office and private garage claiming the crown. The building's facial recognition systems, biometric locks, and AI-powered security represented the pinnacle of Sterling's empire, a $50 billion company that had revolutionized surveillance technology. For 3 years, Samuel had cleaned these floors in the shadows. Night shift, 8 p.m. to 6 a.m., invisible work for invisible wages. He knew every corner, every camera blind spot, every emergency protocol. What Sterling's security team never noticed was how Samuel moved, scanning exits first, positioning himself near walls, watching reflections in polished surfaces. Old habits from a different life. Richard Sterling embodied everything Samuel had once protected against. The 52-year-old CEO commanded his empire from the 60th floor, surrounding himself with bulletproof glass and million-dollar views. His silver hair was perfectly styled, his Armani suits cost more than Samuel's annual salary, and his handshake could topple governments or launch technologies that reshaped warfare. Sterling's recent divorce had cost him $2 billion and left him paranoid, bitter. His ex-wife had taken the Hamptons estate, half his stock portfolio, and his confidence in personal relationships. Now he trusted only technology. Cameras, sensors, algorithms that never betrayed or demanded alimony. Tonight was different. Sterling had called the temp agency that afternoon, his voice dripping with disdain. "Replace the night cleaner immediately. I want him gone." The reason? Samuel had been too thorough, too observant. He'd noticed things, delivery schedules that didn't match, new security personnel without proper badges, unusual vehicle patterns in the garage. When Samuel reported these discrepancies, Sterling saw insubordination, not protection. "People like you," Sterling had said during their last encounter, "should be grateful for any job in this country." The words cut deeper than Sterling knew. Samuel's file showed work authorization, but not the Purple Heart hidden in his studio apartment, not the commendations from 3 presidents, not the daughter in Georgia who hadn't spoken to him in 2 years. Samuel lived in a 400-square-foot studio in Queens, sending half his meager paycheck to his mother's nursing home in Savannah. His ex-wife had remarried a successful contractor. His daughter Grace, now 16 and brilliant, was applying to pre-med programs he couldn't afford. The girl who once called him Daddy the Hero now answered his calls with polite distance. As Samuel loaded his cart for the final time, he carried more than cleaning supplies. Hidden beneath folded towels lay tools that had nothing to do with janitorial work. Emergency communication devices, tactical lights, items that spoke to training most people couldn't imagine. Sterling's Tesla sat in its designated spot, positioned with military precision 12 feet from the elevator bank. The custom Model S represented more than transportation. It was a fortress. Bulletproof glass, reinforced frame, biometric locks that responded only to Sterling's thumbprint and retinal scan. The vehicle had cost $300,000 and could withstand everything from bullets to explosives. No one could enter without Sterling's authorization. No one except a professional who understood that every fortress had weaknesses. Samuel's trained eyes caught what others missed. The parking angle was off by 3 inches. The interior light glowed faintly despite the automatic shutoff timer. Most telling of all, the rear door's weather seal showed microscopic stress fractures, signs of expert forced entry using specialized tools. Someone had been watching Sterling's patterns for months. Someone had mapped his routines, studied his security protocols, and infiltrated his building systems. They knew Sterling would return from his Tokyo conference calls at exactly midnight, alone, confident in his impenetrable garage. They hadn't counted on the invisible man who saw everything, the former protector whose instincts never slept. But Samuel's decision to speak would expose secrets that could destroy them both. 1 week earlier, Sterling had stormed into the garage at 11:15 p.m., an unusual time that shattered Samuel's careful mental map of executive patterns. Samuel was reorganizing cleaning supplies when Sterling's Italian leather shoes clicked across the concrete with aggressive purpose. "Why are you still here?" Sterling's voice carried the sharp edge of a man accustomed to immediate compliance. "I thought I made it clear. Efficiency means finishing before I arrive." Samuel straightened slowly, his movements deliberately non-threatening. "Sorry, sir. Just completing the executive floor maintenance. Should be done in..." "Executive floor?" Sterling stepped closer, invading personal space with the confidence of a man who owned everything around him. "You're a janitor. You clean floors and empty trash, nothing more." The words stung, but Samuel nodded and continued packing. Sterling wasn't finished. He circled Samuel like a predator sensing weakness, his $15,000 suit immaculate, while Samuel's uniform showed the honest stains of manual labor. "You know what your problem is?" Sterling's voice dropped to a menacing whisper. "You think you belong here. This building, this level of success, this proximity to power. It's not for people like you." Samuel's hands stilled on a spray bottle. "I just do my job, sir. Your job is to be invisible. I shouldn't even know you exist." Sterling's foot connected with Samuel's cleaning cart, sending supplies scattering across the polished concrete. Bottles rolled under expensive vehicles while cleaning cloths fluttered to the ground like wounded birds. Samuel knelt to gather the scattered items, muscle memory from military service keeping his movements controlled despite the humiliation. Sterling loomed over him, savoring the visual metaphor of a black man on his knees collecting debris. "Clean it up properly," Sterling commanded, his voice echoing off the garage walls. "And understand something. I own this building, these vehicles, these floors you're crawling on. I own your paycheck, your work schedule, your very presence in this space." Samuel reached under a Bentley for an escaped cleaning cloth, his back aching from the awkward position. Sterling placed his polished shoe inches from Samuel's hand. "Immigration called me back today," Sterling continued conversationally examining his manicured nails. "They're very interested in employees who can't properly document their legitimacy, especially ones who ask too many questions about building security." Samuel's hands froze on a bottle of glass cleaner. The threat was crystal clear: comply or face deportation proceedings that could destroy what remained of his life. "My papers are completely legal, sir." Samuel's voice remained steady despite the rage building in his chest. "Are they?" Sterling's smile was cold as winter steel. "Background checks can be very thorough these days. Amazing what investigations reveal about people's past indiscretions." The following night brought new humiliations. Sterling had installed additional security protocols specifically targeting Samuel. The night security supervisor, Tony Martinez, a former NYPD officer who'd always treated Samuel with respect, delivered the news with obvious discomfort. "New rules, Sam. Mr. Sterling says you need an escort for all work areas. No offices, no private floors without supervision." The policy made Samuel's job impossible. How could he properly clean executive spaces with a guard watching every movement? The setup guaranteed complaints about incomplete work, perfect justification for termination. "This is targeted harassment," Samuel said quietly. Tony nodded grimly. "I know, brother. Document everything." File complaints where?" Samuel gathered his supplies with deliberate calm. "With Sterling's HR department, the same company investigating my immigration status." Sterling's campaign of intimidation escalated daily. He began timing Samuel's work, standing with a stopwatch while Samuel cleaned, making deliberately loud comments about inefficiency and substandard performance. Other night staff witnessed the harassment but remained silent, fearing for their own positions. 47 minutes to clean one floor, Sterling announced during one such session, his voice carrying to security cameras strategically positioned to record the interaction. Unacceptable. A competent worker would finish in 30. Samuel bit back his response. Sterling had no understanding of the methodical thoroughness required for proper sanitation, the attention to detail that prevented security breaches. But explaining would only invite more humiliation. 2 nights later, Sterling appeared again during Samuel's shift, this time with his phone already recording. "Still here past your designated hours," Sterling announced loudly enough for security cameras to capture every word. "I'm starting to think you're casing the building for criminal purposes." Samuel continued mopping the garage floor, each stroke methodical and professional. "Just completing the tasks on tonight's work order, sir." "Did I personally hire you?" Sterling asked with mock confusion. "Because I think the temp agency made a serious error in judgment. Perhaps they don't properly vet their employees." Sterling dialed the agency manager at 11:30 p.m., his speakerphone echoing through the empty garage. "This is Richard Sterling. I want the night cleaner replaced immediately. No, not tomorrow, tonight. This individual represents a security risk and demonstrates concerning behavioral patterns." Samuel kept working while Sterling performed for an invisible audience, the phone call designed to maximize humiliation and establish a paper trail of manufactured complaints. "He asks inappropriate questions about building operations," Sterling continued into the phone, "shows up at unauthorized times, and displays what I consider suspicious surveillance behavior." Each word was carefully chosen, creating a narrative that transformed Samuel's professional diligence into sinister activity. "Actually," Sterling hung up and smiled at Samuel with predatory satisfaction, "I'll handle this personally." He pulled out his personal phone and speed-dialed building security. "Send a team to the garage. I'm terminating an employee for cause, insubordination, inefficiency, and suspicious behavior that may constitute security threats." Samuel's jaw tightened, but his training held. Never show weakness, never give them ammunition. Protect the mission even when the mission was simply surviving another night. "You're fired," Sterling announced with theatrical flourish. "Security will escort you out immediately." Samuel met Sterling's gaze directly for the first time in 3 years. "I haven't done anything wrong." "Wrong?" Sterling's laugh echoed off concrete walls. "Your existence in my space is wrong enough. Your questions, your observations, your presumption that you have any right to opinions about how this building operates." 3 security guards arrived, led by Tony Martinez, who refused to meet Samuel's eyes. Sterling watched with satisfaction as Samuel began collecting his personal items: a worn thermos, reading glasses, a small photo of his daughter Grace in her high school graduation gown. "Leave the uniform," Sterling commanded. "Company property." Samuel changed into street clothes in the security office while Sterling followed to ensure maximum degradation. Other employees would hear this story by morning. The uppity janitor who forgot his place and paid the price. "Next time you apply anywhere," Sterling said as Samuel folded his uniform neatly on the desk, "remember this moment. Remember who decides your worth in this world. Know your place in the hierarchy." But as Samuel headed toward the elevator, his trained peripheral vision caught something that changed everything. Movement in Sterling's Tesla, a shadow that didn't belong, the faint glow of interior lighting that violated every security protocol. Samuel's Secret Service instincts activated instantly. Threat assessment, pattern analysis, immediate danger recognition. Someone was waiting in that car, and Sterling was walking directly into a professionally orchestrated trap. The choice that followed would transform both their lives forever. Samuel's footsteps echoed toward the elevator, but his eyes remained locked on Sterling's Tesla. 3 years of Secret Service training had hardwired threat recognition into his DNA, and every instinct screamed danger. The interior light's faint glow violated the vehicle's automatic systems. The parking angle was wrong by exactly 3 inches. Most damning of all, a thin red laser line swept slowly across the garage floor. "Mr. Sterling," Samuel's voice cut through the executive's self-satisfied monologue about proper workplace hierarchy. "Step away from your vehicle." Sterling turned with theatrical annoyance, his hand already reaching for the Tesla's door handle. "Excuse me? You're fired, remember? Security is escorting you out." But Samuel's demeanor had shifted completely. His shoulders squared, his spine straightened, and his voice carried an authority that seemed to materialize from nowhere. "Sir, I need you to move behind the concrete pillar immediately. Do not approach your car." "You don't give me orders?" Sterling's protest died as Samuel grabbed his arm with professional firmness, pulling him away from the vehicle. The grip was precise, controlled, unmistakably trained. "There's someone in your car," Samuel said quietly, his eyes scanning the garage with methodical precision. "Professional infiltration. They've been waiting." Sterling jerked his arm free but didn't move toward the Tesla. Something in Samuel's tone, the calm certainty, the tactical assessment, registered as genuine expertise rather than janitor nonsense. "That's impossible. Biometric locks, bulletproof glass, military-grade security systems." "Professional bypass," Samuel interrupted, his gaze fixed on the vehicle's rear window. "Specialized tools, extensive surveillance, intimate knowledge of your patterns. This is coordinated." Sterling's confidence wavered. The man he'd just humiliated and fired was speaking with the precision of someone who understood security at levels Sterling had never imagined. "How could you possibly know?" Samuel reached into his jacket pocket, withdrawing a worn leather wallet. Inside, beneath clear plastic, lay a badge that made Sterling's breath catch. United States Secret Service, with a photo ID showing Samuel Johnson, 15 years younger, clean-shaven, wearing the crisp uniform of Presidential Protection Detail. Sterling stared at the credentials, reading and rereading the text. This is real?" "Special Agent Samuel Johnson," Samuel said quietly. "Presidential Protection Detail 2008 to 2019. 11 years protecting presidents, vice presidents, and foreign dignitaries." The transformation was stunning. The hunched, submissive janitor had vanished, replaced by a professional whose bearing radiated competence and authority. Sterling saw him clearly for the first time. The military posture, the watchful eyes, the controlled movements that spoke of extensive tactical training. "What happened?" Sterling whispered. "Why are you—" Samuel's expression darkened, his hand unconsciously moving to cover a scar that ran across his knuckles. "March 15th, 2019, assassination attempt on the vice president. I took a bullet meant for someone else." He rolled up his sleeve, revealing a puckered entry wound just below his wrist. "The shooter breached the perimeter using inside information. I spotted the threat, moved to intercept. The bullet went through my hand before hitting my vest." Sterling's mouth went dry. "You saved the vice president's life." Internal investigation followed. They suspected inside help. Someone had fed the shooter detailed security protocols. I fit their profile for potential collaboration. "What profile?" Samuel's voice carried years of accumulated pain. "Black agent, working-class background, recent financial pressures from my mother's medical bills, easy scapegoat for a complex failure." The irony wasn't lost on Sterling. He'd spent the week questioning Samuel's legitimacy while the man had literally taken bullets for America's highest officials. "The investigation cleared me eventually," Samuel continued, his eyes never leaving the Tesla. "Too late. Reputation destroyed, career ended, family fallen apart. PTSD from the shooting, depression, medical bills that consumed our savings." Sterling processed this revelation while Samuel maintained professional vigilance. The red laser dot had disappeared, but Samuel's tactical awareness remained heightened. "My wife left, took our daughter, lost the house, pension, everything." Samuel's voice remained steady despite the emotional weight. "Turns out protecting presidents doesn't qualify you for much in the civilian world, especially when your file has question marks." "So you became invisible," Sterling said, understanding dawn. "Night work, cash payments, no background checks required." Samuel finally looked directly at Sterling. "Amazing how people don't see you when you're wearing the wrong uniform." A sound from the Tesla, metal against leather, refocused Samuel's attention immediately. His hand moved instinctively to his comm device. "Your normal departure time is midnight," Samuel said, his tone shifting back to professional assessment. "Tokyo conference calls, specific routine. Someone's been watching, mapping your patterns." Sterling felt ice forming in his stomach. You think this is professional assassination, Samuel confirmed. They know your schedule, your security systems, your vehicle specifications. This isn't random violence. The red laser dot reappeared, dancing across the concrete near Sterling's feet. Samuel immediately moved to shield Sterling with his own body, the motion so automatic it revealed decades of protection training. "Get down!" Samuel commanded, his voice carrying absolute authority. The suppressed gunshot that followed sent concrete chips flying where Sterling's head had been moments before. Sterling's world shifted completely. The janitor he'd humiliated was a decorated federal agent. The invisible man he'd degraded had just saved his life, and somewhere in his bulletproof car, a professional killer was adjusting for a second shot. Samuel Johnson was no longer the hunted. He was the hunter. Samuel's transformation was instantaneous and complete. The defensive posture vanished, replaced by the controlled aggression of a man trained to eliminate threats to protected principles. His voice cut through the garage with command authority that brooked no argument. "Stay behind me. When I move, you move. No questions, no hesitation." Samuel's eyes never stopped scanning, calculating angles, identifying cover positions, mapping escape routes with the methodical precision of 11 years protecting the world's most targeted individuals. Sterling crouched behind the concrete pillar, his expensive suit collecting dust as reality crashed over him. "I don't understand what's happening." Another suppressed shot sparked off the pillar inches from Sterling's head. Samuel immediately identified the trajectory, mentally cataloging the shooter's position and capabilities. "Sniper in your vehicle? Backup positions likely established? This is a coordinated professional operation?" Samuel's assessment was clinical, detached. "Your phone. Call building security immediately." Sterling fumbled for his device with shaking hands. "The emergency number is, just dial. Tell them code black, building-wide lockdown. Use those exact words." Sterling stared at him. "How do you know our internal codes?" "I know more about security than your entire team combined." Samuel continued his tactical assessment while speaking. "Make the call." While Sterling dialed with trembling fingers, Samuel observed the Tesla with professional scrutiny. The shooter was using subsonic ammunition with advanced suppression, indicating extensive training and expensive equipment. No panic movements, no hurried shots. This was patience born of experience. "This is Richard Sterling." Sterling spoke into his phone, voice cracking with stress. "Code black, immediate building lockdown. Yes, I'm certain. Garage level 60. Send everyone you have." Samuel gestured for the phone, his tone shifting to federal authority. "This is Special Agent Samuel Johnson, United States Secret Service. We have an active shooter, executive protection situation in progress. What's your ETA on the response team?" The security dispatcher's confusion was audible. "Sir, our records show Samuel Johnson as terminated employee. Check federal databases. Badge number 2847, Presidential Protection Detail. This is real-time threat assessment requiring immediate federal coordination." Sterling watched in amazement as Samuel's simple declaration mobilized resources he didn't know existed. Within seconds, the dispatcher's tone changed completely. "Confirmed, Agent Johnson. Security team mobilizing. Federal units notified. ETA is 3 minutes." Samuel handed back the phone, already moving Sterling to a more defensible position using cover-to-cover techniques that made them nearly impossible targets. "The divorce proceedings," Samuel said while maneuvering. "Who benefited financially?" "My ex-wife received the Hamptons estate, half the stock portfolio." Sterling struggled to think clearly while following Samuel's precise movements. Bitter separation? Death threats? Revenge motivations? Her attorneys were aggressive, but nothing rising to this level. Business competitors? Hostile takeover attempts? Corporate espionage? Sterling's mind raced through possibilities while Samuel led him through the garage like a choreographed dance of protection. Chen Technologies attempted an acquisition last year. We blocked them, costing them $3 billion in lost positioning. Samuel processed this information while tracking 3 separate muzzle flashes from different positions. His assessment was grim. Minimum of 4 shooters, professional coordination, extensive planning. Their repositioning, military-style team movement. Samuel reached into his cleaning cart, retrieving items Sterling had never noticed. emergency communication equipment, tactical lighting, defensive tools that had nothing to do with janitorial work. "You carry weapons as a janitor?" Sterling's voice reflected his growing understanding of how completely he'd misjudged this man. "Old habits from protecting people who matter," Samuel replied, activating a federal emergency communication device. "Plus, night shift in Manhattan requires certain precautions." Samuel's next call bypassed all local channels, connecting directly to federal emergency frequencies. "Federal Plaza Dispatch, this is Agent Johnson, badge 2847, requesting immediate federal assistance. Executive protection, multiple hostiles, professional assassination team." The response was immediate and reassuring. "Agent Johnson confirming your credentials, SWAT and federal units dispatching. Maintain position." "Once Secret Service, always Secret Service," Samuel explained to Sterling's amazed expression. "They never really discharge you, just change your assignment status." More coordinated gunfire erupted from multiple positions. Samuel counted muzzle flashes, 4 confirmed shooters, sophisticated equipment, professional spacing, and timing. "This isn't random corporate violence," Samuel analyzed while moving Sterling to an even more secure position. "They know your building layout, security protocols, and personal patterns, either inside intelligence or months of surveillance." Sterling's face went pale. "Inside job? Or very thorough external preparation?" Samuel studied Sterling's expression in the emergency lighting. "The artificial intelligence technology your company develops, military applications? Some government contracts, but nothing classified beyond standard. Facial recognition systems, surveillance networks, autonomous targeting platforms, all of that, plus predictive behavior algorithms, but worth killing for," Samuel concluded grimly. The elevator chimed, announcing the arrival of what should have been building security. But Samuel's trained eye immediately spotted discrepancies, wrong uniform configurations, non-standard equipment, movement patterns that didn't match security protocols. "That's not building security," Samuel stated with absolute certainty. "What do you mean? Wrong gear, wrong formation, wrong approach vectors, they're part of the operation." Samuel immediately reversed their movement pattern, leading Sterling toward maintenance stairs instead of the elevator bank. "We're going up, not down." Sterling's confusion was obvious. "Up makes no sense, that's toward my office." "They expect retreat and extraction. We're going to attack from a superior tactical position." Samuel's smile was predatory. "Time to remind these people why presidents sleep safely at night." As they moved toward the stairs, Sterling grappled with the magnitude of his transformation. The man he'd humiliated, degraded, and fired was now the only thing standing between him and professional execution. "I owe you an apology," Sterling said as they climbed. "You owe me your life," Samuel replied without emotion. "The apology is optional." But Sterling's real education was just beginning, because Samuel Johnson was about to demonstrate exactly why the Secret Service was considered the world's elite protection force, and why underestimating invisible people was the last mistake many powerful men ever made. Trapped in the stairwell between floors 58 and 59, with gunfire echoing below and unknown threats above, Sterling finally demanded the complete truth. "Who are you really?" His voice carried the desperation of a man whose entire worldview had shattered in the span of minutes. Samuel paused his tactical assessment, turning to face Sterling directly. For the first time, Sterling saw him without the submissive posture, without the downcast eyes, without the deliberate invisibility. What he saw was a warrior. "Special Agent Samuel Johnson, United States Secret Service, Presidential Protection Detail." Samuel's voice carried the weight of 11 years defending democracy's highest office. "I stood between bullets and 3 different presidents." He rolled up his sleeve, revealing a tattoo that made Sterling's breath catch. The Secret Service star surrounded by dates, 2008 to 2019. Below it, in precise military lettering, worthy of trust and confidence. "Obama's second term, Trump's entire presidency, the first year of Biden's administration," Samuel continued, his bearing radiating the quiet confidence of a man who had operated at the highest levels of national security. "State dinners with world leaders, G7 summits, foreign trips where one mistake could trigger international incidents." Sterling stared at the tattoo, processing the magnitude of who had been cleaning his floors. "What happened? How did you go from protecting presidents to March 15th, 2019? Vice President's motorcade routine event in Philadelphia. Samuel's expression darkened as he recalled that day. The shooter breached the outer perimeter using detailed intelligence about our positioning. Someone had fed him our exact protocols. Samuel showed the scar on his hand, a puckered entry wound that spoke of violence barely survived. Bullet punched through my hand before hitting my vest. I took 3 more rounds center mass while neutralizing the threat. You saved the vice president's life, Sterling breathed. I did my job, but afterwards Internal Affairs launched an investigation. Samuel's voice carried years of accumulated bitterness. They needed someone to blame for the security breach. I fit their convenient profile. What profile? Black agent with working-class background, mother in an expensive nursing home, daughter with college dreams I couldn't afford, financial pressures that supposedly made me vulnerable to corruption. Samuel's laugh held no humor. Easy scapegoat for a complex intelligence failure. The investigation had destroyed everything. Months of interrogation, polygraph tests, financial audits that invaded every aspect of Samuel's privacy. His colleagues treated him like a pariah, while lawyers dismantled his life searching for evidence that didn't exist. PTSD from the shooting compounded everything, Samuel continued. Nightmares, depression, medical bills from reconstructive surgery on my hand. My wife couldn't handle the stress, the investigation, the media attention, watching our savings disappear into legal fees. Sterling began to understand the depth of injustice Samuel had endured. She left you. Took our daughter, moved back to Georgia with her family. Divorce papers cited irreconcilable differences, but we both knew the truth. Samuel's voice caught slightly. She couldn't be married to a man under federal investigation. Couldn't risk our daughter's future on my uncertain reputation. The investigation eventually cleared Samuel of all wrongdoing, but the damage was irreversible. His security clearance was restored, but no agency would hire an agent with question marks in his file. Private security firms avoided former federal agents with controversial histories. Blacklisted from the profession I'd devoted my life to, Samuel said. Skills that protected presidents were suddenly worthless in civilian employment markets. Amazing how quickly you become invisible when you're wearing the wrong credentials. Samuel pulled out his phone, showing Sterling a photo that made his chest tighten. A beautiful 16-year-old girl in a graduation gown, her smile radiant with potential and dreams. Grace, Samuel said softly. Graduated high school at 16, wants to study pre-med at Emory University. Brilliant, compassionate, everything good about the future. When did you last see her? 2 years ago. Christmas Day, 2022. She was polite, distant, protective of her mother's new life. Samuel's pain was evident. She sends dutiful texts on birthdays and holidays, calls me Mr. Johnson instead of Daddy. Sterling stared at the photo, seeing a young woman who looked exactly like what a hero's daughter should be. Intelligent, determined, full of promise. The money I send for her education comes from night janitor wages, Samuel continued. 3 jobs, 16-hour days, living in a studio apartment that costs more than most people's mortgages. Also, Grace can have opportunities I can't afford to give her properly. You've been protecting me for 3 years, Sterling said, pieces clicking together. Even while I treated you like I was invisible. Yes. Samuel's assessment was matter of fact. 37 separate times I've adjusted your schedule, parking positions, or routes to avoid potential threats I identified. Sterling's mind raced through memories. The night I worked late last month, you stayed until 3 a.m. Suspicious van with Ohio plates parked across the street for 6 hours. Non-standard surveillance patterns. I waited until they departed before securing your exit. 2 weeks ago, you moved my car. Fresh oil leak under your previous parking spot. Could indicate sabotage or tracking device placement. I had it tested. Just automotive maintenance, but better safe than sorry. Sterling realized with growing horror that Samuel had been his guardian angel for years while he treated him as less than human. The delivery irregularities you reported, the badge discrepancies, the unusual vehicle patterns, all legitimate security concerns require investigation, Samuel confirmed. Your security team dismissed them as janitor paranoia. I documented everything anyway. The magnitude of Sterling's blindness was staggering. The most qualified protection professional he could have hired had been working for minimum wage, enduring daily humiliation while quietly ensuring his safety. "My daughter asks about my work," Samuel said quietly. "I tell her I help important people stay safe. She thinks I'm a security guard at some office building." "Why didn't you tell her the truth?" "Because the truth is that I'm a failed Secret Service agent who cleans toilets for the same type of people I used to protect." Samuel's honesty was brutal. She's proud of her security guard father. She'd be ashamed of her janitor father. But as gunfire erupted closer to their position, Samuel's demeanor shifted back to full professional mode. "Grace always said I was good at my job because I cared about people even when they didn't care about me." He checked his tactical equipment with practiced efficiency. Tonight, that principle gets tested. Sterling finally understood what he'd been too blind to see. Samuel Johnson hadn't stopped being a protector when he lost his badge. He'd simply found different people to protect, even when those people despised him for it. And now, Sterling's life depended entirely on the man he'd spent years trying to destroy. Level 59 stretched before them like a glass battlefield. Sterling's executive floor with its open-plan offices, floor-to-ceiling windows, and multiple sight lines that transformed the space into a tactical nightmare. Samuel's trained eye immediately recognized the environment, a kill box designed to eliminate defensive advantages. "They're hurting us here," Samuel said, scanning the transparent offices that offered no meaningful cover. Open space, multiple entry points, overlapping fields of fire, perfect for coordinated assault. Sterling's phone buzzed with an incoming call from an unknown number. Samuel gestured for him to answer, switching to speaker mode as his comm device crackled to life simultaneously. "Agent Johnson," a cultured voice said through both devices. "Impressive tactical work so far, but you're exactly where we wanted you." Samuel's blood chilled. Professional coordination, this precisely indicated resources far beyond corporate assassination. "Who is this?" "Someone who knows your real story, Agent Johnson. The vice president shooting? You weren't investigated because you were suspected of collaboration. You were investigated because you were getting too close to the truth." Sterling and Samuel exchanged glances as elevator indicators showed movement on multiple floors, teams converging from above and below with military precision. "What truth?" Samuel demanded, his tactical assessment continuing even during conversation. The assassination attempt wasn't foreign terrorism or domestic extremism. It was a beta test. The voice carried chilling satisfaction. Sterling Technologies provided the facial recognition system that was supposed to protect the vice president, but someone had turned it into the perfect infiltration tool. Sterling's face went ashen. "That's impossible. Our security algorithms are modified by someone with root access to your source code," the voice interrupted. "Instead of identifying threats, the system created blind spots. Your technology didn't just fail to prevent the assassination attempt, it actively enabled it." Samuel's mind raced through implications while tracking elevator movement patterns. The tactical situation was deteriorating rapidly, hostile forces coordinating from multiple levels, professional equipment, extensive planning that indicated months of preparation. Inside job, someone with architectural-level access to Sterling's core systems, Samuel concluded. "Very good, Agent Johnson. The same someone who's been trying to acquire Sterling Technologies ever since. Carter Technologies didn't want to steal Sterling's innovations. They needed to bury evidence of their collaboration in an attempted assassination of federal officials. The pieces clicked for Sterling with horrifying clarity. The acquisition attempt, the hostile takeover bids, the corporate espionage campaigns, all designed to gain control of our systems. When direct acquisition failed, alternative methods became necessary. The voice continued conversationally. Your divorce was orchestrated to create financial pressure, market manipulation designed to devalue your stock, personal scandals manufactured to force a distressed sale. Samuel checked his tactical display. 6 minutes until federal backup arrived, but hostile teams would reach their position in under 2 minutes. The mathematics of survival were becoming impossible. When legitimate business pressure failed, you escalated to elimination, Samuel stated grimly. Mr. Sterling's death will trigger automatic sale provisions written into corporate bylaws, the voice explained with casual menace. Chen Technologies will acquire Sterling's assets at predetermined prices, gaining control of the modified surveillance systems before federal investigators can discover the assassination connection. Sterling stared at Samuel with growing understanding. You've been investigating the VP shooting this whole time? On my own time, with my own resources, using skills they couldn't take away, Samuel confirmed. The official investigation was deliberately misdirected by someone with federal-level access who had compromised multiple agencies. 3 years of patient investigation while working as a janitor, Samuel continued, accessing corporate databases during night shifts, cross-referencing timing patterns, following financial trails that led back to Carter Technologies and their shadow partnerships. The elevator chimed with mechanical finality, but instead of law enforcement, 6 tactical operatives emerged in coordinated formation. Military precision, advanced equipment, professional spacing that spoke of extensive training far beyond corporate security. Move! Samuel grabbed Sterling, diving behind the reception desk as automatic weapons fire erupted with deafening intensity. Glass walls shattered in cascading sheets that reflected emergency lighting like deadly snow as Samuel guided Sterling through the office maze using furniture and architectural features for concealment. His movements were choreographed to perfection, each position calculated for maximum protection, every transition planned 3 moves ahead. How many hostiles? Sterling gasped as they sprinted between cover points while bullets shredded the corporate environment around them. 12 confirmed operators, possibly 16 total, Samuel replied, his voice maintaining professional calm despite the chaos. Military coordination, advanced weaponry, extensive tactical planning. This isn't corporate security, it's federal-level opposition with unlimited resources. Samuel's years of Secret Service training activated completely. He used the office environment tactically, triggering fire suppression systems to create concealing fog, manipulating lighting controls to generate shadows, turning corporate furniture into defensive positions with practiced efficiency that revealed extensive urban warfare experience. But their pursuers were equally professional. Coordinated movement patterns, disciplined fire control, systematic elimination of escape routes using textbook small unit tactics. Samuel counted reload patterns and ammunition expenditure while simultaneously planning counterattack strategies that could neutralize superior numbers. They're boxing us in, Samuel observed, tracking muzzle flashes from 6 different positions. Classic assassination protocol: eliminate escape routes, force targets into predetermined kill zone, execute with overwhelming firepower. Sterling's terror was palpable as reality crashed over him. This is about more than corporate acquisition. This is about covering up attempted assassination of federal officials, Samuel corrected grimly. Your technology was used to nearly kill a vice president. Everyone involved needs to disappear before congressional investigations begin asking uncomfortable questions. Samuel reached his cleaning cart, which he'd strategically positioned earlier, retrieving equipment that had nothing to do with janitorial work, tactical communication devices, defensive tools, items that spoke to preparation far beyond what any janitor would carry. Your building's emergency lockdown system, Samuel said during a brief lull in gunfire. Can you activate complete facility isolation? Sterling accessed his phone's building management app with shaking fingers, navigating through security protocols while bullets chipped concrete around their position. Activating full lockdown. Done. Steel barriers over all windows, elevator shutdown, stairwell seals engaged, 1-hour automatic cycle. Immediately, massive steel barriers slammed down over exterior windows while blast doors sealed potential escape routes with the finality of a tomb closing. The building transformed from office complex into fortress, trapping everyone inside but eliminating external extraction possibilities. Now they can't escape either, Samuel explained. Tactical advantage shifts to defenders with superior knowledge of terrain and building systems. But their enemies had anticipated this move with disturbing precision. Samuel's comm device buzzed with an incoming message. Live video feed showing Grace Johnson walking across Emory University campus, completely unaware of the red laser dot tracking her movement through telescopic sights. Your daughter is very beautiful, Agent Johnson, the voice said with casual menace that made Samuel's blood turn to ice. Pre-med program, Dean's List, bright future ahead of her. would be tragic if academic pressures became too overwhelming to handle. Samuel's world stopped completely. Every protective instinct screamed while his tactical mind calculated impossible odds. The choice was stark. Continue protecting Sterling and watch his daughter die, or surrender and let the conspiracy succeed. "You touch her, and I'll hunt you through hell itself." Samuel's voice carried lethal promise. "Surrender immediately, and she remains safely unaware of tonight's events," the voice replied smoothly. "Continue resistance, and tomorrow's headlines will discuss a promising young woman's tragic suicide brought on by financial pressures and family shame." Sterling saw the torture in Samuel's eyes, the impossible choice between protecting the man who'd humiliated him and saving his daughter's life. The weight of parental love versus professional duty created an equation with no acceptable solution. "Take their deal," Sterling said quietly, his voice carrying newfound respect and understanding. "Save Grace. Let me face the consequences of my corporate decisions." But Samuel's response revealed the depth of character that had made him worthy of presidential protection. Grace doesn't need blood money for her education. She needs a father she can respect when she looks in the mirror. The tactical situation deteriorated as hostile forces coordinated a final assault from multiple directions. Samuel faced the ultimate test of his training, his principles, and his love for his daughter, all while outgunned, outmanned, and trapped in a building that had become a fortress for both sides. "Grace always said heroes don't choose between right and wrong," Samuel murmured, checking his remaining defensive options while gunfire intensified around their position. "They choose between right and easy." With federal backup still minutes away and professional killers closing from multiple directions, Samuel Johnson prepared for the fight of his life, not just for Sterling's survival or his own redemption, but for his daughter's future and the principles that had defined his entire career. The invisible janitor was about to remind everyone why Secret Service agents were considered the world's most elite protectors. Samuel's tactical assessment crystallized into action. Using Sterling's administrative access, he reversed the building's facial recognition systems. Instead of identifying authorized personnel, the AI now tagged anyone carrying weapons as hostile intruders. Automated defenses activated throughout the building. Blast doors sealed hostile positions while emergency lighting created tactical disadvantages. Samuel moved with lethal precision, using his Secret Service training to engage targets with calculated efficiency. "Federal agents, drop your weapons!" echoed through the building as SWAT teams breached the sealed entrances. Samuel's federal credentials had triggered a massive law enforcement response. "Agent Johnson, this is SWAT Team Alpha," crackled through Samuel's comm device. "Confirm your position." "Floor 59, 2 civilians secure, multiple hostiles neutralized," Samuel responded professionally. The assassination team found themselves trapped between Samuel's position and ascending federal agents. Gunfire lasted 6 minutes before silence returned. "All clear, Agent Johnson," came the final transmission. "Hostile team neutralized." FBI agent Martinez approached with her tactical team. "Impressive work. We've been tracking this conspiracy for months." "The Carter Technologies connection?" Samuel asked. "Foreign intelligence front. They needed Sterling's technology for surveillance operations against federal officials." Agent Martinez gestured toward the carnage. "Your investigation made tonight's arrests possible." Sterling stared at Samuel with complete understanding. "You were conducting a federal investigation this entire time. Unauthorized personal investigation," Samuel corrected. "No official standing, no resources beyond what a janitor could access." Emergency teams processed the scene while Samuel retrieved his phone, finding missed calls from Grace. His hands trembled as he dialed. "Daddy!" Grace's voice carried tears of relief. "I saw the news! They're calling you a hero!" Samuel's voice caught hearing Daddy for the first time in years. "I just did my job, baby girl." "I'm so proud of you," Grace continued. "Can I come see you?" Samuel looked at Sterling, who nodded emphatically. "Yes, Grace, I'd love that." Agent Martinez approached with documents. "Agent Johnson, all charges expunged. Full federal reinstatement available immediately." Samuel considered while watching Sterling. "I think my protection work is just getting started." Sterling stepped forward with conviction. "Samuel, I want to offer you something better." 1 week later, Sterling's office had transformed from corporate arrogance into something resembling humanity. Samuel sat across from Sterling, not as employee and employer, but as equals. "The federal investigation cleared your record completely," Sterling said, sliding official documents across his desk. "All charges expunged. Your security clearance is fully restored." Samuel examined paperwork that officially returned his life. Reinstatement letters, pension restoration, medical benefits retroactively applied. "I'm restructuring Sterling Technologies," Sterling continued. "New position, Executive Security Director. Salary, $300,000 annually, plus signing bonus of $500,000 for Grace's education." Sterling revealed additional documents, a college fund covering Grace's undergraduate and medical school expenses completely. "Your daughter will become the doctor she dreams of being," Sterling said simply. News coverage had made Samuel a national symbol, the invisible hero whose vigilance exposed foreign espionage. But Samuel declined all interview requests. "I don't want fame," Samuel explained. "I want to be a father." Sterling's corporate policies underwent revolutionary changes. New employee recognition programs, fair wages, comprehensive respect protocols, ensuring no one's contributions went unnoticed. "Every employee gets full dignity," Sterling announced company-wide. "We're implementing the Sterling Standard, human respect as core business practice." The industry impact rippled throughout Manhattan's corporate culture. Other companies adopted similar policies inspired by the janitor who saved a billionaire. But the most important change was personal. Grace Johnson arrived from Georgia for a surprise visit Sterling had secretly arranged. "Daddy!" Grace's embrace was captured by security cameras Sterling later framed, not for publicity but as a reminder of what truly mattered. "I saw everything on the news," Grace said, voice filled with pride. "You really are a hero." "I'm just your dad," Samuel replied, emotion thick in his voice. "Same thing," Grace responded, echoing childhood words. When Grace met Sterling, her poise surprised everyone. "Thank you for keeping my father safe." Sterling's confusion lasted until Samuel explained, "I told her you protected me during the attack, that we worked together." The generosity of that lie, transforming Sterling from antagonist into ally for his daughter's sake, completed Sterling's character transformation. Samuel's story inspired national legislation protecting essential workers and sparked the #Invisible Heroes movement. Grace moved to New York for pre-med studies at Columbia, rebuilding their father-daughter relationship. "We're becoming a family again," Samuel told Sterling. "Different but better." Sterling's relationships improved dramatically. His ex-wife began speaking civilly, understanding the injustice Samuel had endured. His children started returning calls. The Carter Technologies conspiracy led to multiple convictions and dismantled foreign intelligence networks. Samuel's investigation techniques became case studies at federal academies. During Sterling Technologies' shareholder meeting, Samuel was introduced as Executive Security Director to thunderous applause, but more importantly, as Sterling's friend. "Partnerships aren't built on contracts," Sterling told investors. "They're built on character." Standing in the same garage where everything began, Sterling asked, "Any regrets?" Samuel smiled, watching Grace study in the building's library. "Only that it took almost losing everything to find what really mattered." "What's that?" "Family, dignity, purpose. Things you can't buy but you can earn." Their partnership would protect the principle that everyone deserves respect. In a world obsessed with status and wealth, Samuel Johnson's story reveals the most profound truth about heroism. It isn't determined by position, title, or bank account. It's about character that remains unshakable, even when everything else is stripped away. For 3 years, Samuel protected Richard Sterling while enduring daily humiliation. He could have walked away, found easier work, and abandoned his post. Instead, he chose service over self-preservation, duty over dignity, protection over personal pride. "Real power isn't dominating others," Samuel reflected during a security conference keynote. "Real power is empowering others, especially when they don't deserve it." Sterling's transformation was equally profound. "I thought success meant being above other people," he admitted during a Harvard Business School lecture. "I learned it means lifting other people up." The ripple effects continue spreading. The Sterling Standard, treating every employee with dignity regardless of position, has been adopted by Fortune 500 companies nationwide. Samuel's story sparked federal legislation protecting essential workers from discrimination. Grace Johnson graduated magna cum laude from Columbia, earned admission to Johns Hopkins Medical School, and plans emergency medicine specialization. "I want to save lives like my father does," she explained during her valedictorian speech. The real lesson isn't about Samuel's Secret Service background or Sterling's corporate transformation. It's about recognition, the choice to see human worth in unexpected places, to value character over credentials, to understand that heroism often wears humble uniforms. Look around your world today. Who are the invisible heroes serving, protecting, maintaining, and caring while others take credit? They're not invisible because they don't matter. They're invisible because we choose not to see. Samuel's words echo nationwide. Your worth isn't determined by how others see you. It's determined by how you serve others, especially when no one's watching. Sterling adds, "Never underestimate anyone. You never know who might save your life." Remember this truth. Heroes aren't born in boardrooms or battlefields. They're forged in quiet moments when doing right costs more than doing nothing. If this story moved you, share it with someone who needs to remember that everyone matters, everyone has worth, everyone deserves respect. Like this video if you believe in invisible heroes. Subscribe for more stories that reveal the extraordinary in the ordinary. Comment below. Who's an invisible hero in your life? Heroes are everywhere. Sometimes we just need to learn how to see.